There were 4 minutes left on Elvis's first professional test before they told him that's enough. But what happened in the parking lot afterward made a legend. Elvis Presley, then 19 years old, was sitting in his beat-up 1942 Lincoln Continental in the Memphis, Tennessee, parking lot of Sun Records on January 4, 1954. He could hardly hold on to the driving wheel because his hands were shaking so badly. It had taken him 45 minutes of sitting there to get the courage to walk through that door. Elvis had dreamed about this day for many years. Sun Records was the place where huge names in blues and country music got their start. Sam Phillips, the boss, was known for taking ordinary people and making them into something special. This was Elvis's shot. This was his chance to show that all the years of training, singing on the porch at night, and hearing people say that his voice was cool were worth it. But Elvis was scared. He had never really tried out for a job before. He had sung before at school, church, and family events, but this was different. Elvis was just a truck driver with a dream and a voice he wasn't even sure was good enough. This was the music business. Finally, at 3:47 p.m. Elvis pushed his way out of the truck. He was wearing his dad's nice shirt for this. There were so many times his mom pressed his pants that they were like butter. He had enough grease in his hair to keep a boat dry. Before he could change his mind, he grabbed his guitar from the passenger seat and walked out the door. The front desk at Sun Records was staffed by Marion Kisker. She worked for Sam Phillips and was in charge of most of the walk-in tryouts. Marion had seen and heard hundreds of hopefuls come through that door. In about 30 seconds, she could generally tell if someone was serious or just trying to waste her time. Elvis walked in and right away. It didn't feel right. There were pictures of real musicians on the walls, people who had made songs and were important. He was just a kid who worked for Crown Electric Company as a truck driver. Marion looked up from her work and asked, "Can I help you?" Elvis blew his nose. "Yes, ma'am. I'd like to try out. If that's okay with you." "Possible. If you're hearing people today," she said after looking at him for a moment. He looked so scared he might throw up, but something about how tense he was made her notice him. "What kind of music do you sing?" "All kinds, ma'am. I can sing ballads, gospel, country, blues, anything you want." "Who do you sound like?" Elvis paused. This was the question that always stumped him. Marion had heard singers who couldn't carry a tune say that, but Elvis's answer, which was a mix of pride and fear, made her curious. "Sam was working on something in the back, but I could record you doing a test track for $4. If Sam likes what he hears, he might call you back for a real audition." Elvis's heart sank. There was exactly $3.72 in his pocket. He was going to use it to buy gas for his truck so he could get to work the next day. "Ma'am, I've got $3.72, is there a way?" Marion cut him off and said, "That's fine. I've broken this rule before for kids who clearly couldn't afford it. Come on back." Elvis followed her into the small recording room, his guitar heavy in his hands. Marion set up the gear and gave him a pair of headphones that had electrical tape on them. "What are you going to sing?" Marion pressed the record button and said, "All right, when you're ready." Elvis then started to sing. At first, his voice was shaky, nervous, and uncertain. But then, he closed his eyes. It was my mom's favorite song. Mary was watching him, but he forgot about everything except the song. His voice found its groove, that unique mix of country twang and R&B soul that didn't sound like anyone else. Marion raised an eyebrow. This kid didn't sound like the other country singers who came through. He didn't sound like the blues singers who came through. Elvis got through the first verse and was starting the second when the door to the recording booth opened suddenly. Sam Phillips walked in, looking angry. "Marion," Sam asked. What? Sam stopped when he saw Elvis in the booth just doing a test recording. Marion replied, "This is." That's when she realized she didn't know his name. "Elvis Presley, sir," Elvis said, pulling off his wig. His heart was sinking as he took off the headphones. Sam's face told him that the audition was over. Sam crossed his arms and stared at Elvis for a long time. "Play me something else." something up-tempo. Elvis's hands were shaking so badly that he almost dropped his guitar. He started playing a fast version of That's All Right, an Arthur Crudup blues song that Elvis had been obsessed with for months. Elvis sang it with all his heart and soul for 4 minutes, but at exactly 4 minutes in, Sam raised his hand and said, "That's enough." Elvis stopped in the middle of a verse, and Sam looked at Marion and then back at Elvis. "Son, what are you trying to do here, sir? What kind of music are you trying to make?" she asked. "What point are you trying to make?" Because I just heard Sam pause and look for words. "It's confusing. You're mixing blues and country like they're the same thing. You can't do that. You need to stay in your lane." Elvis's face burned. "I just sing what I feel, sir." Sam told him straight out, "You don't have to sing what you feel. You're stuck in a no man's land. Black radio won't play you because you're white and singing their music wrong." Marion tried to speak up, but Sam was already talking. "And your guitar playing is at best average. Your voice is interesting, but interesting doesn't sell records. It's too different from what they're used to hearing." Elvis stood there holding his guitar, feeling every word like a punch to the gut. "My advice is to stick to truck driving. You've got a steady job, right? Keep that job. Music isn't going to work out for you. You don't fit anywhere," Sam said. "Yes, sir." "Thank you for your time," Elvis said in a whisper. Elvis walked out of that recording booth, through the front office, and out to his truck. He made it about 30 feet into the parking lot before the tears started. He sat in his truck, crying so hard he could barely breathe, still clutching his guitar. Everything Sam Phillips had said echoed in his head. Too different, too weird, doesn't fit anywhere. Drive trucks instead. Elvis thought he was unique and would become famous for years. His mother told him he would, and teachers said he had a beautiful voice. But now someone who worked in the music business told him he wasn't good enough and never would be. Elvis cried in the parking lot for almost 2 hours as he watched the sun go down. On July 5, 1954, a truck driver who was 19 years old went into a small studio in Memphis. He had no idea that he would change music forever. The meeting wasn't going anywhere. The songs did not work. He stopped taking it seriously because he was fed up and worn out from trying. He picked up an old blues song to pass the time during a break. No one was taking notes. There wasn't any interest. Then, that careless second, everything changed. The real story of how Elvis Presley made a sound that no one had ever heard before, and how music would never be the same again. That night, nothing worked. The air wasn't very interesting on the evening of July 5, 1954. There was no sense of fate or that things were about to change in history. Inside the room at Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee, was too hot, and the mood was dark and unsure. The walls were not very thick. The tools were simple. With each failed try, the clock seemed to move more slowly. This wasn't a very nice spot. The studio was used by area musicians, country singers, blues musicians, and anyone else who wanted to try their luck. And this night, luck seemed to be on its way. Not to be found anywhere. Elvis Presley, who was 19 years old, was standing in the middle of the room. He was antsy and sad. He was still just a truck driver from Memphis to everyone else. There were no hit songs, radio stars, or a clear path ahead. It had been years since he had been here and hoped something would happen. It felt like more of the same tonight. It had been tried song after song. Country, gospel, and songs. There was polite silence at the end of every take, and it felt like something was missing. Behind the glass, director Sam Phillips paid close attention. But even he didn't seem sure. Phillips was looking for a sound that he couldn't quite describe, i.e., something raw, something different, and not quite like race songs or country music. This young singer seemed like she had promise, but that wasn't enough for him. He needed a spark, but the session hadn't given him one yet. It seemed like everyone in the room was waiting for something that would never come. This was Scotty Moore on guitar. He was cool and professional, and he was doing his best to follow along. Bill Black was playing the upright bass. He was moving his weight and getting bored. Recognizing the same anger. The takes were dull and the mood was flat. Everyone thought the same thing, but no one said it out loud. The meeting wasn't going anywhere. Another chance lost, another quiet sadness that would be forgotten as soon as the tapes were put away. That's how it felt. After some thought, it was decided to take a break. Not a big break, just a moment to take a deep breath. Elvis took a step back, relaxed his shoulders, and felt the stress leave his body. He wasn't mad. He didn't feel motivated. He was just worn out from working so hard. No one was taking notes. No one paid close attention. And now for the first. There wasn't any need to impress anyone that night. That's when something strange happened. Elvis picked up his guitar and started playing an old blues song he liked. He didn't say anything about it, and he wasn't thinking about the radio, records, or his job. It wasn't planned. They didn't practice it. He didn't want to make a hit. He was. Just to break the quiet, kill time, and let off steam. That's All Right was the song. It was written by Arthur Big Boy Crud years ago, and Elvis knew it by heart. The way he played it that night, though, was different, faster, lighter, and almost fun. It wasn't at all like the version that everyone had heard before. At first, it seemed like just something to take my mind off of things. A young artist was just passing the time in a small studio on a dull night. But Sam Phillips stopped what he was doing in the control room. He leaned in. That's right. At that very moment, something did change. The accident that no one saw coming. What came next did not start out with excitement or thank you. To begin, there was chaos. Scotty Moore looked up, not sure if he should stop Elvis or join him as he played. Elvis's singing was free and relaxed. Their work on that song was not this one. Even though it wasn't planned, stopping felt wrong because of the way Elvis leaned into the words and the way the beat moved him. Scotty hesitated for a split second before slowly joining in. He added a clean, sharp guitar line that danced around the tune instead of adding to it. Bill Black smiled across the room. He automatically picked up the beat and slapped the strings of his upright bass with a lot of energy that almost felt careless. It wasn't finished well. It wasn't careful, but it felt good. Just a few minutes ago, the room felt heavy and I felt tired, but then I felt lighter. The walls were shaking with the music. It took away the stress. That night, nobody tried to sound like anyone else for the first time. They were just having fun. Elvis wasn't thinking about the rules of blues or country music. He wasn't thinking about deals or numbers. He had no thoughts at all. His voice was free to bend notes, move forward and backward, and find its own place between melody and beat. It was both old and new at the same time. Even though the song was old, the sound felt strangely new. It was faster, brighter, and more sure of itself than the original. This show wasn't put together with care. It was nature that took over. Sam Phillips stopped moving behind the glass. He had been moving papers because he was almost ready to end the meeting for the night. But now he stopped doing anything. He narrowed his eyes and leaned closer to the speaker to make sure he was hearing it right. It felt like something was off about this.